Hi folks, Mike from Turfman UK here with an update of the work we've carried out on the green here at Fitz Bowling Club in the glorious Lake District. Not so glorious today, it's pretty damp, we've had a bit of mizzle, incredibly mild, warm actually, which will be obviously ideal for a bit of disease which we're seeing little signs of on the green. This is the last weekend of the playing season, the green closes tomorrow, end of season renovation starts on Tuesday. We are going to give the green a light scarify with the Sisis rotor rake, not the grading this year. We're going to hollow core the green because we haven't done that for probably 4 or 5 years and we feel that the green's quite compacted now, so we're trying to relieve that. Then we're going to put granular seaweed down, dwarf fry grass seed, and then we've got 3 tons of top dressing to go on. And here we have Club President Cliff Harding, who is giving the green probably its last cut of the playing season. The green closes tomorrow, so yeah, it's the end of a long season for the green. So here we are, this is the green this morning. It's just been cut by the club president, and there's still quite a bit of grass coming off it, but as you can see, if I just come down here, you can see the green's starting to show bits of wear. This is predominantly from the localised dry patch that we had through the summer period, where we don't have any irrigation on here. It's just natural water that goes on the green, so it hasn't had anything but rainfall on it. So considering the dry patches that we've had, the dry spells, the green's not looking too bad and it's actually playing quite well. We've had lots of good reports, people wanting to come and play the county competitions here. And just out of interest, if you just look there, there's a dry patch. You can actually see where the last year's overseeding has taken. That was done with solid tines and it was seeded about this time last year. So we have grasses certainly there that we want, but we've obviously got to try and sort out this localised dry patch. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the way the green's played. Everybody twines about it. It's either too slow, too quick, or they haven't bowled particularly well. But yeah, to be honest, pretty good. We haven't done a lot of feeding. We've tended to use a lot of seaweed products just to try and keep it ticking over, and some plant sugars. I'm not a great fan of sticking too much feed on the greens. I like them to look quite lean. And yeah, so there we are. This is basically what it's looking like today, which is the last weekend of the season. So this is one of the problem areas we've had on the green. As you can see there's a bit of a bare patch where somebody's filled it with top dressing. What happens is that the green, when it rains, it tends to flood in this end, in this corner. We've got a big fir tree right on the corner, which goes with basically all of the nutrients and all of the moisture that comes in here. The green's been built on top of clinker, which is like a coke waste that they use for levelling before they put the root zone down. That's about 8 inches below the green, and the drains underneath that are basically running bone dry, so it's just natural drainage. So that's one of the reasons why this sits wet, because obviously it's a low spot of the green. And as you can see, if you look down here, we've got patches of really good bent grass and dwarf rye, but we've also got quite a lot of poor annual meadowgrass, which you can see has been hit by a bit of fusarium. So there's a real indication there that obviously the better quality grasses can sustain attack by fusarium, whereas the meadowgrass, you can see it obviously takes a bit of a hit. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to reduce the amount of meadowgrass we have in our green and replace it with a more desirable grass, which is easier said than done. I think because it sits wet as well, this obviously gives the poor a bit of a helping hand. But apart from that, this is the only part of the green that I think we've got major problems. What we tend to find is in the corners of the greens. If you look in that corner there's a big tree in that corner, and there's also a massive tree in that corner. So when you get dry periods, obviously those trees grow with quite a bit of moisture. As you can see here, this is right on the corner of the green where that big fir tree stands, and you can see it's quite dry with very little grass cover on here. And this area doesn't get a lot of sunlight. In the dry period it dries up really quickly because obviously the tree goes with a lot of moisture. And this end here, this is one of the problem areas we've had on the green this year, is we've got, because people have played crossways a lot more this year than they've ever done before. They like to play across the green rather than up and down, which has always been the traditional way. We've got a saddle, so basically by the end where that little shrub is in the foreground, from there to that's where the saddle starts, and it finishes just about the end of the concrete there. So we've got a distinct saddle, so the balls tend to roll up this way across the green. They get to the saddle and then they drop down into the gutters. So not ideal. So what we're going to try and do this year is we're going to try and hollow core this end probably 2 or 3 times, remove the cores and then just let it drop a little bit and see if that reduces the saddles. If not, the other alternative is to phrase mow it, but don't really want to go down that line at the moment. And it's basically just this side of the green. Another problem we have on the green, we seem to have, I'm talking about a lot of problems, but that's what we get this time of year, is the timbers on the green. These were replaced probably 5 or 6 years ago because people have been standing on them, which you can't avoid, people do it. Plus as well, when the mower's going along, it gets run along there. These have been pushed outwards and the green's dropped, so we've got a bit of a dip there. So what tends to happen is the balls run over the saddle, come towards the edge of the green, and obviously because the grass is long, the balls stop on the end, which isn't ideal. We don't want them shooting down into the ditches, but we also don't want them hitting the timber and rolling back onto the green. That's not what we want. So we're going to try and remedy that this year. We've got an additional ton of root zone, and we're going to try and lift these edges up and try and get it right. But apart from that, the greens have been in pretty good nick. So that's a quick update. The end of season renovation work starts on Tuesday, and we'll be posting regular updates on the work that we carry out, and we hope it'll be of interest to you. We'll talk through why we're doing things and the processes that we carry out and what we're trying to achieve. If you like the video, and it'd be great if any comments, you can leave your comments, you can click and like, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we hope to speak to you soon. Have a good winter. Bye bye.